Hey, you guys. How y'all doing today? Hey, you guys. So, today's topic is unhealed trauma and the long lasting effects, and how, it affects your adulthood and your ability to have successful relationships, and being um, positive parents, etc. So, first of all, let me start by saying, of course, that in no way, shape, form, or fashion is this to bash anybody who is a victim of domestic abuse, or a survivor of childhood domestic abuse, or any of that. So some of the terms that I may use may be misinterpreted, but I just want to say ahead of time, that that's not what it's meant to be. But anyway, I wanted to just come on and talk about how I don't think a lot of us understand or realize how, the reason that we're having such a hard time navigating through relationships and being successful, and having friendships and things of that nature, is because a lot of us are still not healed from things that we suffered from childhood, and different traumas and things that we experienced. And sometimes, you go through stuff and you brush it off, or you try to put that as far in the back of your mind as you can, that you start to just brush it off as, it's not childhood trauma, or it's not anything because I got through it, or that's no longer my life. But that doesn't mean that it isn't something that is long lasting mentally and emotionally, and there's triggers that cause those things to get you to explode or act out of character, or whatever the case. So just a little backstory on my childhood trauma. And it's a lot it's not a lot or whatever, or it's a lot. I'm gonna be truthful, but I'm not gonna just put all of it in there, but I'm just gonna highlight one specific area over a course of 5-6 years, or however. So back in 2000, my grandmother died, and that was my sole guardian, custodial parent from the time I was a little girl, and I can remember up until the time I was 8. So when my grandmother died, I ended up moving in with a family member that hey Tanya, thank you for watching. I ended up moving in with a family member, and her husband, and my cousin. And I'm not going to mention any names, just in case, they watch this video or whatever the case, because I am friends with some of my family on there, whatever the case, right? So, at 8 years old, I moved in with my aunt, her husband, and my cousin. And, the first couple years went good. There was, other than the fact that I had lost my grandmother, I think I cried for like half a year straight before my cousin kind of just told me, like, he woke up one day like, just shut up crying, she's not coming back. So I think after that, I had to just kind of like mentally try to get over it or whatever. So whatever, the first couple years were cool. I think everybody was still understanding that I was a grieving child. I had really kind of like lost a mom, or somebody, a big figure in my life, or whatever the case may be. So after a couple years or whatever, maybe I'm like 10 or something, once I start kind of getting in the moving and grooving of being in this new household, where I had already been doing chores and stuff like that, but it was more so of me more so helping my grandmother, because my grandmother was sick and she had heart problems and stuff. So it was more of me volunteering and just stepping up to the plate to try to take some of the weight off my grandmother, or whatever the case may be. But whenever I moved to my aunties, like we had chores, we walked the dog, we did this, we did that. And after the first, and also a part of this is my aunt, she was alcohol abuser. So she drank on a daily. There would be times whenever she would drink and get mad or whatever the case may be, and she would fight her husband, and me and my cousin would have to go to the other room, or we would be standing by scared and kind of frightened, not knowing what to do, or if we should help, or whatever the case may be. So I come from this environment that was just me and my grandmother. It was peaceful, not much conflict or anything going on, because it was just me and her. So it was no reason to have conflict or whatever. And then I moved at 8 years old, already kind of traumatized because I lost a significant figure of my life unexpectedly, just kind of fast. I mean, I guess it wasn't unexpectedly, because we had signs and we kind of knew that this was coming. But I moved into a totally different environment that, it's alcohol use on a daily basis. People are being mean to each other. People are throwing things at each other. People are like violent in this household, and it's completely different than what I'm used to. So I'm scared, low key, or high key. I'm scared. I'm spooked. Like, what is this that I'm in? You know what I mean? But so on top of that, after the first couple of years, and they started incorporating me into chores and stuff like that, like I started noticing or experiencing like her husband would kind of like nitpick at me. And at first it felt like nitpicking, like, oh, somebody just that's real picky about how they want their chores done, or whatever the case may be. So he would say stuff like, can't you do anything right? Can you not do it right? Didn't I tell you how I wanted you to do it? And, are you stupid? What's wrong with you? And at first, like, it's new to me, so I'm thinking like I accomplished the ending result. Like, you asked for me to load the dishwasher's loaded. It looked like all the dishes gonna get cleaned to me, so I wasn't seeing an issue. But of course, I'm like, well, maybe I am doing it wrong. Maybe it's a certain way that it was supposed to be done. So I would just be like, okay, well, how did you want me to do it, or what exactly was the right way to do it, or whatever, since I felt like I had done it the right way. And he would show me or whatever the case, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty much what I did. Like, and you weren't even here to watch me, so you don't know if that's what I did or not, whatever the case, right? So as the years are going by, I just like, it just started seeming like it was more and more and more. Like, he would just, after I would do the dishes, are you stupid? You stupid. You a dummy. You ain't gonna be shit. You ain't gonna be nothing. You gonna be just like your mama, your daddy. And at this time, my mom's on drugs, and my dad, he's in jail or whatever. I never really met him because he went to jail since when I was a baby. So I had never met him physically, but I had a relationship over phone calls and, letter writing or whatever the case may be. So he just used to tell me stuff like, you stupid, you're going to end up like your mama, your daddy, you here because nobody wanted you, and just all this little stuff that for a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, you kind of like well, damn, you know, I already did feel like my mom and them didn't want me. They wasn't fucking with me, considering the fact of the circumstances. And, you know, like, my grandma died, and in the midst of my grandma dying, like, it ain't like I had much family, but it wasn't really nowhere for me to go. So you kind of feel like, damn, what he's saying might be true. You know, nobody wants me. Nobody cares about me. You know, am I stupid? Am I dumb? Am I going to end up being like my mama and daddy? Am I going to be a smoker? Like, just all this stuff that as a kid, you know, you don't really understand. You don't get it. You don't know, or whatever the case. And luckily for me, because I had been already in the circumstance of my life, I was able to understand. Like, my mind is great. Like, I'm brilliant upstairs, right? Like, I had to kind of grow up older, or before it was time for me to, because I wanted to make sure I was there for my grandma, that I didn't run her down in the dirt for her taking me in and trying to make my life a better situation than what it could have been, being in foster care, whatever the case, right? So I stepped up to the plate, and I was starting to peep things here and there. Like, clearly, you know, this dude is going through something, or like, he got his own issues. I mean, let's be honest, my auntie is in here whooping his ass, and he a whole man getting beat up by a woman, and you know what I mean? But the thing that was crazy was like, and that made me feel so isolated, was like, my cousin lived with us, and he was not that older than me. Like, you know, he was only a couple years older than me or whatever, but like, he never did none of this to my cousin. Like, he never told my cousin he was stupid. My fault, y'all. He never asked him, like, he never told him anything like, you know, are you dummy? Can you not get it? Are you can't figure it out, or whatever the case? Like, he never told him like, oh, my fault, y'all. That was my husband. Anyway, so like, he never really did any of that stuff to my cousin, and he never. So it was like, clearly it's got to be something wrong with me. Like, clearly, you know, I am the dummy. Something's wrong with me or whatever. And then, of course, after a while, like, I told my auntie, and my auntie, like, checked him, I guess, in her way, and, you know, would cuss him out a little bit and tell him, like, you know, don't be doing that, and that's not right, or whatever the case may be. But, like, you know, like, as a kid, it just wasn't enough. Like, him being yelled at, and he would stop for a couple days or whatever, but soon after that, you know, shortly, here it come again, you know, you dummy, you stupid. And, you know, of course he was a coward, and he would do it like, he'd be looking to see if my auntie in the room, or where's she at, while he talking to me all crazy and stuff like that. And as I got older, you know, I got into the 6th grade and stuff like that, like, I started noticing that, like, I would come home from school and stuff like that, and like, dude would ask me to read him his mail. Like, you know what I mean? He would ask me to be like, he would be like, hey, what does this say? Or read me this letter, or whatever the case, you know. And the first couple times you'd be like, all right, well, maybe he, you know, maybe it's because we driving down the street, or whatever the case may be, or whatever, you know. But then I started realizing that dude couldn't read that good. So he had an issue within himself. I mean, on top of getting beat up by my auntie and shit, and then also being 50 something, 60 years old, you can't read, you know what I mean? Like, I bet you internally that probably kind of bothered him. And then, you know, my auntie used to call him stupid and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of like, he was hurting too, you know what I mean? Like, he was hurting, he was going through shit, and instead of him trying to heal or seeking counseling or shit, leaving a relationship from somebody that was toxic and wasn't benefiting you in a good way mentally or whatever, like, he instead took that out on me. And, you know, he did whatever he felt like he needed to do to get it off his chest, and he did that to me to make me feel like I wasn't shit, or like I was less than, or whatever the case. And luckily, like, yeah, I was smart enough to understand like something wasn't right with the picture. You know, I wasn't the typical 8-10-year-old. You get what I'm saying? So it bothered me and it got to me, of course, you know, and it hurt me. And I figured out journaling at that time was my best escape. It was the thing that helped me the most. I used to stay in my room so much and just want to be away from everybody. And I used to journal and just write my thoughts and my feelings and cuss people out, tell people about themselves, like all of the above. So that's somewhat got me through it or whatever the case. And I had friends. And at the age of 11, like, I started smoking weed. So I would go outside and hang with my little older friends and I smoke weed. I smoke and then, you know, go home and I just feel like shit, I ain't really paying them no mind anyway. I'm zoning them out. I'm chilling, whatever the case may be. So, you know, here I am feeling messed up at the time, kind of getting into it at school because I'm having anger management issues. I'm ready to check everybody, tell everybody about themselves because, you know, it's like shit, I'm mad. I'm pissed. I'm feeling like I'm not being heard. They're not taking me serious. My auntie's not handling this situation the way that it needs to be handled or whatever the case, right? And over the years, I'm also exhibiting a bunch of other toxic, harmful behavior that I feel like in my adult years, I also was experiencing ruining relationships, friendships, shit, you know, people that could help me and stuff like that based off of my anger and my bitterness. And also I was putting myself in situations where, you know, unknowingly I was putting myself in situations where I was allowing myself to be more vulnerable to people who were trying to take advantage of me. I was, you know, trying to self-medicate through smoking weed to the point where I got to the point where, you know, I smoke when I wake up, before I eat, after this, before this. Like, it was just, I needed to smoke. That was my thing. I'm about to smoke, so if the vibe ain't right in here, I ain't got to deal with it. You know what I mean? So, whatever. And here I am, 6 years into my marriage, that at the beginning of my marriage, I was having issues. And this is me being vulnerable, being honest, keeping it 100. Like, I think a lot of people don't want to admit it and don't want to let it be known that sometimes, you know, we like to blame other people for what they not doing and what's not going right in a relationship. But true enough, we looking for people to heal us or to know what we need in order for the relationship to be successful. We go into relationships thinking like, oh, this is just going to be a happy ever after. Not knowing, like, no, if you are not healed, if you ain't healed them childhood traumas, them little things that you put in the back of your mind, in the back of your heart, and you ain't thought about for 10, 11, 12, 15 years, like, that shit is going to come up. It's bound to come up. So here I am in a marriage that, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm married. This should be happily ever after. Everything should be working on. But I'm not realizing, like, I'm dealing with a whole nother person who lived another lifestyle than what I lived, had a different set of parents than what I did, had his own views and his own traumas and dramas that he was trying to deal with and fix and all of that, to where, you know, we were clashing. I was, you know, calling myself getting out of character and saying shit and demanding stuff that was like way out of line, and just not right, you know what I mean? And it took me and my husband both time to like realize, sit back, and I'm more of a communicator than he is, so that was a big thing too, you know, me being able to express my feelings and feeling like I'm being heard, and him also not feeling like I'm nagging at him or whatever the case may be, right? But I was having to kind of like let it be known what some of my triggers were. Like, look, man, I'm realizing now And I guess I kind of knew a little bit before, or whatever the case may be, that like I'm reacting and acting based off of things that are triggering to me, that I see you doing that you may not even be doing, but in my mind you're doing it because that's what that action or whatever bad thing in my mind looks like, because it's been done by so many other people that have hurt me before. You know what I mean? And I don't know. And I just feel like me not being healed, me not seeking this proper counseling and the help I needed early on, when I was able to take my life into my own hands at the age of 17, when I moved out of my grandma's house and make the decisions that I wanted to make, and you know, whatever. I wasn't thinking enough about my mental health. I wasn't thinking enough about all those toxic, horrible, emotional, painful, gut-wrenching realities and truths that I held beneath all the laughter that I displayed, all the clothes and shoes I would buy to cover up, underneath all the weed smoke I would smoke and light up, whatever the case. Like, it was a lot of stuff that I needed to gather within, realize about myself, and get together, because it was not helping me. So I'm gonna leave that with y'all, and I just wanted to leave that with y'all. If you are a youth, if you just now getting out on your own, and you realizing, hey, this ain't as easy as I thought it was. This is lonely. It gets hard. I'm tapping back into this childhood, this childlike behaviors and mentalities and fears and insecurities. It's because you need to heal. You need to seek counseling. You need to find the things that are going to help you be better. Of course, it takes time, one day at a time, one solution after the next. But you have to first seek that for yourself. Or no matter what relationship you think is going to work, or what person you think is going to be the best person for you, and whatever, like, it's never going to be that, because that's not what it is. Those people will never be able to make you happy. They will never fully understand the level of hurt and pain and consideration and delicacy, or whatever the case is that you need. They're not going to understand that. And you have to understand that for yourself, and be able to find that healing within yourself before you can go and really be successful in loving other people, loving yourself, or whatever the case may be. And if you're a parent, if you are an adult caretaker, if you take care of a niece, a nephew, a little cousin, whatever the case may be, like, let's watch what we say. Let's make sure that we are handling these kids with care, because we like to think that, oh, because they're little and they're kids, they don't pay bills and all this stuff. Like, they're not going through things. They go through things. If you're struggling and you letting it be known on the outside that you're struggling, you're hurt, you whatever, that kid feels that. They know what you're going through. Kids are sometimes smarter than adults, in my mind, in my experience. But we don't give them the credit that they deserve. And we need to take their development serious. We need to take that argument in a quiet room and talk about it when the kids are asleep, and when we're not yelling, when we're not spewing hate at each other. We need to let our kids know you are beautiful. You are smart. You can be anything that you want to be. You put your mind to it, you can. You try hard enough, you will finally get it. That's the stuff that we need to be spewing into our kids. You know, there was that viral video that went out about that little girl getting her hair done, saying she wasn't beautiful, she wasn't cute. You know, I'm not pretty. And it can be simple shit from you talking about how, you know, your black ass daddy, and all the stuff that we say and do around our kids that we don't understand, that they're picking up on, and they're attaching it to themselves. they're looking at themselves and saying, well, dang, mommy, I'm dark. I'm not light like you. So do you not like dark-skinned people? Am I not pretty in your eyes? Am I not good enough? And then connect that with some of the other toxic behavior that you give off or whatever. Like, you can be the most toxic thing in your kid's life. You can be the most toxic thing in your kid's life just by the actions and the words that you say to them. And I know life gets hard. We get out here, we get to being busy. We get to being stressed in toxic stuff and trying to get out. And we forget, and yeah, we human. I get it. Like, I'm not saying that I'm the best parent or I ain't had to watch myself or had to go back and be like, you know what? That's not what I meant. And that's not right of me. I'm sorry. We're not going to talk like that or whatever the case may be. But we have to actually be like in the moment and holding ourselves accountable. If we ever expect to break any generational curses, if we ever expect to give our kids anything better than what we had, if we expect our kids to go out here and not be toxic and displaying negative behaviors because this is what they've seen. So I just wanted to leave you guys with this, right? Whenever you are a child and you have unhealed trauma, you tend to grow up with behaviors like trying to be a people pleaser, trying to, fix other people, trying to prove yourself, prove your worth to other people, doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing just to be worthy of something or somebody's acknowledgement or whatever the case. We look for this outside instant gratification. I want to be told right now that I'm the man or that I'm cool and I'm willing to do anything and everything in order to achieve that. You got codependency, not being able to be alone or with the with the help of somebody else, helping them to live and get by. Like, becoming the abuser. They tired, they fed up, they can't take somebody saying something to them without wanting to black somebody's eye or whatever the case may be. Living on high alert. You got people out here going through anxiety, PTSD, and all of that, all because of the stuff that they went through as a child, the stuff that they can't get out of their mind. Living up to, trying to get over self-doubt and self-sabotage, not allowing themselves to be loved or to let people see them vulnerable or whatever the case may be. Like, we don't realize it, but the things that we say and we do around our kids is very, very, very crucial, and it's important. And I'm making this video for everybody, the kids and the adults alike. Like, I'm hoping that this motivates you to just look at yourself and want to look back at your childhood and think about the things that you may be displaying in your parenting or your marriage or your relationships that's causing you to have such a bad outcome or negative results or getting hurt time and time again or whatever the case may be. Like, I don't know, like, that stuff is really real, and I've learned that. I've experienced, I'm telling you this through experience. Like, counseling was one of the greatest things that I could have ever experienced, because they told me things that I didn't know about myself or about the psyche, about all of that you would never know about yourself. While you blaming yourself or coming up with all this toxic, you not realizing, like, no, that's not cool. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, y'all. But I just wanted to leave that with y'all. Make sure that y'all are... Hold on. Hello? I'm here. I'm about to poll. All right. No, I ain't doing nothing bad. I'm picking up my husband. Anyway, so I just wanted to leave y'all with that. I want y'all to, uplift y'all babies, support them, motivate them. And if you in a relationship where somebody's not talking to you how you need to be talked to, or they belittling you, or they causing you more stress than they are good, then that's something that you need to get out of for you. And don't ever think that staying in something for some kids is gonna do anything good for you or the kids, because really in turn what you're ultimately doing is you're just hurting yourself more, and you are causing your kid trauma. I know that's hard to hear. I know that all kids need 2-parent households, and that's so true. Listen, but sometimes they don't have to be in the same household. They can have 2 parents, and you function over there and I function over here. And if that's what's more healthy for my kid, and my kid's not seeing me get beat up, or my kid's not seeing me always crying and not being my greatest self, and being down and all of this stuff, while we together, if they have to see that while we together, but I'm better than that when I'm not, like, then you need to just be by yourself, heal, find out who you are, what you enjoy, what triggers you, what like, at the end of the day, you have to love yourself more than you will, before you'll be able to love anybody else to their full capacity, or before you can even allow anybody to love you the right way, or any of that. So I hope y'all have a great day. Follow me on Instagram and at I am Saray. I got a couple other things that I wanted to share with y'all in this month of October that has to relate to domestic violence and bullying, based off experience and things that I have learned, and etc. So just stay tuned, and I hope you guys have a great day. Put yourself first.